Hi, I'm Random Trashy, welcome to the channel. So today I'm going to be starting the first part of my Ultimate Milsim guide, and this is to differentiate between a milsim and a skirmish. Now, there are going to be some points that cross over both. There are going to be some businesses out there that do a little bit of milsim mixed in with a little bit of skirmish, but I'm going to just try and get us a rough line in the middle so that you guys that are out skirmishing at the moment, that want to go over to milsim, you have a good understanding of how these events are comprised and what the makeup of a milsim event is, you know, and potentially what you're going to have to get kit-wise or things that you're going to have to learn to be able to push to accomplish and go to these milsim events and really enjoy yourself. So one of the key things that I did recently was speak to some of the guys out there in the milsim industry and ask them what they would differentiate between a milsim and a skirmish, and the points that they would raise to kind of say, well, that's more of a milsim thing and that's more of a skirmish thing. There's definitely nothing wrong with either, and I do enjoy going out and having a good laugh at a skirmish event, but at the same time, when it goes towards the milsim, things are a lot more organised, a lot more dedicated, and I will get into the preparation and stuff that goes into a milsim that you definitely don't get towards the skirmish side of things. So the feedback from some of the friends, one of the key people was Richie. He's a good friend of mine. I think I met him on my second day ever airsoft in like absolute yonks ago, and we're still friends now. He has been around the airsoft and milsim scene for a lot longer than I have. He's played all over the UK at every single event provider. He's played all over Europe. He is a real good beacon of knowledge when it comes down to airsoft and the milsim side of things. I've learned a hell of a lot from him, and his response was really well put together, and I want to read it out to you guys. Just as a precursor to all of the information on the channel and in this guide, this is my own personal opinion. It might not match up with everyone else, but what I'm trying to do is just put some general advice out there for you guys that are looking towards milsims as to, you know, what to expect. The sort of things that happen, the type of structures and all that sort of stuff that are in place at a milsim that you might not have at a skirmish. And this is so that you can turn up to those events and be aware of how they run, how they work and that sort of thing. And for you to be able to go there more prepared is always a better thing. So I'm going to jump into this from Richie, and then I will go through some of the points myself. So I asked Richie, give me 3 points that differentiate from a skirmish from a milsim. And he said, first off, with a skirmish, the player structure is completely different. Skirmish players are left to their own devices. Their choice of going solo, working as a team, is up to them. Playing the objective or blasting as many rounds off as possible with a much more relaxed atmosphere, and an emphasis is based on having fun with jokes aplenty. Definitely think he covers on some really great points there. You know, you can turn up to a skirmish event, have a ton of fun. You can go off on your own in a ghillie suit and go and snipe a load of people, as I've got a few friends that do. At the same time, there is no dedicated surrounding to say that you must be in fire teams, or there must be a squadron, or you must go out and achieve objectives within a group, and while another, you know, there's none of that severe organisation. Moving over towards a milsim, he said a milsim is more structured with a dedicated HQ, team leaders, and every player has a role and a part to play. With everyone having a role to play, the atmosphere for the most part is not relaxed, because the consequences of you not doing your part for the team has repercussions on the mission at hand as well as the entire event. That is something that is critical when you look over to going to do a milsim event. Within our team, we have our 5 guys. We have a medic, we have a comms guy, we have a sniper, we have a door banger, and then we have the guy that's with the door banger, and that's normally the TL and the 2IC. So that is all 5 of us have a dedicated role to play. If one of us drops that role, it means it needs to be picked up by another person. If someone is slack and not pulling their weight as one of those roles, it has a severe impact on our team, and that is why we run with these 5 guys, because they all know their role and they all do it extremely well. Us 5 guys not pushing, not getting to an objective, maybe not helping another team, impacts other people within that group. If we're in a fire team with 2 other teams and we're not pulling our weight, they're going to know about it. And also that is going to then affect, like Richie mentioned, the entire mission. And that could mean that we don't get an objective and lose a weekend. So everyone having a role to play, it really does bounce up the chain, and it does mean that you need to be on point and focused at all times. The second point, skirmish events are designed for all comers. Therefore, you can turn up in full kit or just chuck on some sturdy boots, hire some kit, with all the marshals there on hand to give you help or advice that you might want or need. Let's face it, we all started at skirmishing. And he touched on a great point again. Everyone is there, you know, you get all comers of all different types of players. You know, you get guys that will turn up in, you know, their tracksuit that are playing for the first time, all the way through to, you know, full-on milsim guys dressed as ninjas, guys running about, you know, wearing all different types of things. it is a complete mix of people, whereas at the Milsim events you're definitely not going to get that. So it is a bit more fun, a little bit more relaxed, you get different types of people there. When we move on to Milsim, which he said, Milsim is a case of big boy rules. They expect all players to know the basics of Airsoft, so you're not going to get your beginner rocking up to an Airsoft, a weekend-long Milsim event. It's just really, really unheard of. With more demanding game/mission comes the need for reliable and genuinely high-end gear. With the focus on your kit or loadout, sometimes looking the part is not always the key thing when it needs to be able to facilitate tasks as well. It needs to be able to stand up to different functions. And I will go into that in a second. It's not just looking the part, it's doing the job at hand. If you want to run about with a bright print gun at these types of events or a face mask, this probably isn't for you. If you're scared of being shot in the face at a Milsim event, you should probably find another way of playing Airsoft. And I think what he's trying to cover here is that because of the type of kit that you need to be sustainable out on the ground, it's not going to be feasible for you to have a big face mask on or a full face covering, because you're not going to be able to wear it for 24 hours comfortably. Having the higher end kit does help. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to need to be rocking cry all over just to be able to go out and do a Milsim. That's not the case at all, but you will need a decent level of kit. You're going to need kit that's going to be able to stand up to all different types of weathers, and you're going to have kit with you that's going to cope for a heavy downpour, followed by some nice bright sun or thunderstorms or something like that. If you do get soaking wet, you need to be able to either get a hard shell on, you need to get some cover, Gore-Tex trousers if you're out in long grass. There's a million different combinations, but you need to have the kit to be able to deal with the terrain or the tasking at hand. And this is what Richie says here, where it's not just looking good and having that Gucci looking kit, it's having kit that's functional. And if you're going to kick doors down all day, you're going to need the kit to be able to do that. You know, whether that is flashbangs, whether that is breaching equipment, whatever. Moving on, it's the third point. Perhaps the biggest difference between Skirmish and a Milsim is you can go to a Skirmish game, have a great laugh, and do as little or as much as you want and never be judged. Milsim is knowing the times when to be an arse and joke about and when to knuckle down, and when it's asked as an entire team relying for you to play, is when asked on your team, the entire team is also relying on you to do your part. So it is covered on some real key points. It's not just about going and having a good fun and maybe your entire side completes an objective. With Milsims, you may have an objective just for you 4 guys to go to an OP position and an Overwatch position and feedback intel. You might not actually get to squeeze the trigger at that point. But giving that intel back to 0 will actually enable maybe another team to go and do it. Sometimes that isn't as satisfying, but you're working towards the bigger picture, and that is something that you see a lot more in the Milsims. Some of the other key things that I do want to push on to, obviously the skirmishes are normally a lot shorter. They're normally a day game, you know, or sometimes they run over 2 days, but there's a break in the middle, or, you know, there's a ceasefire period where you get to have some downtime, you get to go and eat and sleep and that sort of thing. With the Milsims that are over 24 hour, they're over 24 hour, and sometimes you can be out on the ground for that entire period. So you need to completely self-sustain, and that is a point that I will push on to in a little while. On the skirmish side of your thing, again, you do get a variety of players. You are going to have all different types of people there. You're going to get the guys that are playing for the first time, and you're going to get the guys that have been playing for, you know, tens of years, and they're out milsimming and they do all that different types of thing. You are going to have that vast variety, and because of that, you get different skill levels. You get guys with different capabilities, and you're going to have different fitness levels and that sort of thing, and that will give you a much broader spectrum of player there. And it means that some guys are going to be able to complete some tasks more easy, and some guys are going to find it a little bit more difficult. Some of the other things, the facilities at skirmish events are normally really good. I go to a local site, Apocalypse Airsoft. They've got everything. They've got running water, they've got hot food, cups of tea, they've got a really good stand area for you to be able to get your guns and everything together. They've got great facilities. You know, they run weekender games there, but they've also got lighting and stuff, so it is a nice safe site. They've got a really good big safe zone. Whereas when you push towards places like the Valley with Stirling, there is a lot less facilities. There's no running water, there's no fresh food, there's no hot food, unless you're, you know, making it and looking after it yourself. And once you turn up to that fob building and get pushed out onto the ground, you are out on the ground. So there's no sleeping facilities, there's anything like that. Everything that you need for that entire weekend, you carry on you at all times while you're out on the ground. And that is a very big push for someone to be able to go and do that if you've only ever been used to doing a day game. So skirmishing is largely a lot more simple when it comes to a command structure and when it comes to the rules of the game. So, you know, you're looking at the basics for a skirmish event. When you push to a Milsim event, there is a lot of stuff here that I can cover. So I'm just going to go through the basics. You are going to have a higher level of player. Some of these guys are going to be ex-military, some of these guys are going to be training as a team, some of them are going to be, you know, out every single weekend practicing CQB. You are probably going to go up against a higher standard, higher skilled level of player. The way that the sides are broken down on a Milsim event, especially if you're SF, you are going to have a command structure, you are going to have assets that you're going to be able to use. So some of the events that I've done on Milsim sides, you will call into 0 and you could get a drone put up to be able to get you some intel. You can rain in mortars, you can call in different types of ordnance as well. So we've had vehicles and stuff like that we can call in on if we've needed them, for fast extract, for us to be able to move between points. So the command structure means that you can normally rely on assets. That is not something you normally see within a skirmish. There might be a few kind of these weekender Milsim sort of events that kind of are a skirmish, but they're over sort of 2 days with a break in the middle. Sometimes they have those types of things, but they're definitely more enforced on a Milsim weekender. So we've got the command, we've got the dress, we've got the skill set, the roles to play. You are going to have a dedicated medic within your unit. That guy will be the medic all weekend. He will look after getting guys back into the field. That means that every other guy is going to have a role as well. Normally you have an RO, a TL, and then with the TL you have a 2IC, and then you might have someone that's a heavy saw gunner, or you might have a sniper within that team, or you might have someone that's going to be doing the door breaching. There is a variety of roles that kind of middleman can pick up, but you are going to have dedicated roles, and that is something that you will have to be prepared for if you are going to a Milsim event. The equipment that you're going to need over that weekend is going to be vastly different from what you're going to need at a skirmish event, and I will be covering that off in another video. So if it comes down to the equipment guide, that will be something that we'll be putting up a little bit later. A lot of the Milsim companies that are out there, especially Sterling, will give you a basic kit list of what you need for that weekend, but a lot of the time it's down to you to provide stuff like, you know, extra clothing, warm gear, cold gear, waterproof gear, spares, and obviously the kit that you are taking, you may need backups and that sort of thing. And if you need to be self-sufficient out on the ground, that is another big video itself, whether it is water for drinking, cooking, having a jet boil, being able to make warm food, drinking and eating MREs, that sort of thing. That will be another video that I will go into. But the Milsim side of things is a lot more demanding, both mentally, both physically, and from a mindset point. And this is one of the key things that I really want to feed into, and a massive thanks to the guys over at Task Force 67. Every single one of those boys spoke about immersion. Immersion into the event is something that you won't see as often in a skirmish event. You're going to see the immersion aspect really come into it when you are at a Milsim. Now, there has been different scenarios where the immersion levels for me have really kind of sucked me up, and all of a sudden my mindset is completely different. And the more you let yourself go, and the more you sort of give yourself to the event, the more you're going to enjoy it. There's definitely been a few cases where the immersion levels for me have been absolutely insane. One with Combat Airsoft Group, where we had attacked a building, we'd cleared it out, we started conducting SSE, a second fire team had come in from the enemy perspective and started mortaring the building that we were in. It instantly killed all of our squad that was outside. We pushed out from inside of the building to kind of start medicing people, getting them back in, pulling them in towards hard cover. And as we did that, another round of mortars come in, along with a load of these kind of smoke grenades that were being fired out of mortars. So there was smoke everywhere, loud flashbangs. There was a Kazvac team there with guys with simulated injuries, with blood squirting all over the place, and we were trying to conduct this operation and pull people back in towards the building while that was going on, and the level of it was just insane. Sensory overload. Another case of that was with Sterling Airsoft. We pushed into the valley, we went out into a position, we were overlooking a road, we got all dug in, we covered ourselves with foliage, we thought that we had not been seen. The target that we were looking for the entire weekend walked on a road coming round, we were on a hill like this, round in front of us. I only had 2 guards with him. There was myself and 2 other guys. We could have quite easily nabbed him, and then we got over the comms that they had intel that the enemy knew of our position and potentially that we were going to be ambushed. All of a sudden I just had a deep feeling of dread. I was just so worried, and realistically we're never going to get hurt, we're not going to get, you know, abducted, we're not going to get kidnapped, whatever, but just that thought that they knew that they potentially knew we were there just absolutely scared the life out of me. And sometimes that immersive feeling of rolling with a team, rolling with your boys, you're pushing up to the front door of a building, you've got to focus that that building is full of hostiles, that this isn't a game, you're taking it serious and you want to go in there and you want to have as little casualties as possible, you want to clear that building out, you want to achieve your objective, be in and out. Sometimes you have to just force that mindset on yourself, and it enables you to operate, play, whatever you want to call it, at a much higher level, and sometimes that immersion really helps. So that was one of the key things that they come back with, as well as equipment, being out on the ground for long periods of time, which I have covered. All of this stuff I can go into more detail with. I'm happy to push on with all of these videos. I did get asked how often these are going to be going up. It really depends how many questions you ask. I've had a load of questions on the introductory video. If you have any questions, comments, feedback around this video, please feel free to put it in the box below, and I will get back to you with short videos, or I will encompass all the questions into one longer video. Just let me know what you'd rather see. So yeah, just pushing on today is a bit of a conclusion. Hopefully we've got some things outlined. You know, if you're going to a skirmish event, you know, the equipment that you're going to need is fairly basic. The command structure is basic. You're not going to have a particular role to play. Again, like what Richie mentioned, if some guys want to slack off, they want to just go and pick a few people off sniping, or they just want to have a bit of a chilled day and a bit of a shoot up, they can. There's no real impact on the entire side. Whereas if you are pushing onto a milsim side, you need to be self-sufficient, you need to have the equipment to be able to be out on the ground all weekend, or potentially be out on the ground for long periods of time. You are going to have to fit in with that command structure. You are going to have to play a role in a part of a team. You are going to have to make sure that, you know, if there are taskings and that sort of thing, you've got the mindset to push through it. And there is a part that I do want to touch on with this that does come down to physical fitness. If you are on your feet all weekend with all of your equipment on, you're covering harsh terrain, difficult terrain, there is definitely an element of fitness that you're going to need if you are going to go and push onto these harder milsim events. If you do want to go and check out some milsim events, there are plenty of them out there. I would recommend Sterling Airsoft, that are doing a lot over this year. If you want to check out some training, you want to go and do some night vision training, CQB training, Combat Airsoft group do a ton of different training modules. You can go and check them out on Facebook. If you are looking for a local skirmish or some good skirmish sites, I will put some links into some ones dotted around the country, but the one that I personally go to is Apocalypse Airsoft in Detlin. They're a great bunch of guys down there. They've got a really good site as well. I do enjoy going down there. They also are pushing onto the longer skirmishes and you know, bridging towards milsims as well. So that's really exciting times for them, especially considering the site is so close to me. So again, I will make sure this is all linked in the description below. Any questions you have, anything you want to raise, please make sure it's in the comments box below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all soon.